use headphones for best experience. Thanks for your fantastic support. Hi, welcome to another video. And first, let me just show you that you can listen to my content if you want to listen audio only on audio streaming platforms like Spotify, Apple Music or other platforms. And then you just type in ASMRctica, ASMR, and here you will see my albums with my content. Today I would like to draw another map, and this time I will draw the map of New Zealand. So as usual I will start with some loose sketching on this paper that I have prepared with some background purple bluish ink. And yeah, this will be a video where I will draw the map like in portrait dimensions, so it's not perfectly suitable for the widescreen format on video. Yeah, the video format. So let's see how I will solve it. But at least New Zealand consists of mainly two islands, one to the north and one to the south, called the North Island and the South Island. So let's start with the North Island. For some reason I think this was the most complicated area to draw, the very northern end. But I think I have it now, the South Island, the Stewart Island, and the North Island here. And I will go on with the coastline of the North Island. And I think it would be nice to choose a light blue for the coastline. Now the coast for the South Island. Sorry, I think I was drawing outside the frame here for a while. I'm also gonna add some islands that doesn't really fit into this frame, but are located more far to the east, to the south, and to the north, for example. So first I would like to add the Chatham Islands. And it's quite funny because the Chatham Islands has their own time zone. And it consists of a main island and then the Pit Island to the south, a smaller one. And another name for the Chatham Islands is New Zealand have at least two different names, two different languages, because it's the English, the official language, together with the Maori. So every name will be in both English and Maori, and I will try to include both names. Sometimes I might forget it, but I will try. Yeah, the time zone for mainland or most parts of New Zealand is plus 12, counted from 0. I mean 0, the meridian through England, London. Then they are like, or New Zealand is 12 hours ahead of London. So it's at the 180-degree meridian, so in the total opposite side of the Earth, counted from London. But then the Chatham Islands is actually located in, I think, still in the 12 plus 12 hour zone, but it's on the other side of the international date line. So then it would be 12 hours after London if it would be totally precise with the meridians. But of course that would be a bit tricky to handle if the Chatham Islands have at the same time as other parts of New Zealand, but 24 hours later. So the time zone here is now 12 hours and 3/4 ahead of Greenwich time. So it differs 45 minutes between these places. And I think there are only like 800. The population of Chatham Islands is only 800 or something like that. But they still have their own time zone. It's only, I think this is the only place on Earth where you have this time zone, where you can find 12 hours and 3/4 time zone. Stewart Island, also called Rakiura, and the South Island, it's called Te Waiponamu, and the North Island is also called Te Ika a Maui in Maori language. I think I will go on with the lakes and rivers that I would like to add to this map, also in the same blue color. And let's start from the south. The southern lakes, it's a district here in the Fiordlands area. It's a really mountainous area here in the South Island. And there's a river called the Waiau River. And the second biggest lake on New Zealand, it's Te Anau. And the lakes here in the Southern Lakes area are like very narrow. It's like finger lakes, because it's like fjords and very steep cliffs and mountains here. Very beautiful landscape, I can imagine. here's another river called the Matamata. So you can't really see the difference of rivers and lakes when I'm drawing them like this. Because, yeah, the thickness of this marker. But here is actually the fourth largest lake, Wanaka, and the second longest river that drains this lake is called the Clutha or Mata'ao. And then this is the third largest lake. I think this is an area that is very popular for tourism. I think it's very, I can believe it's very beautiful here. The lake is called Wakatipu. And it connects to the Clutha or Mata'ao river here, with the shorter Kawaru river here. Then if we move a bit more to the north, there's like an area called the Mackenzie Country, or Te Manahuna. And here there are a lot of lakes in the mountains, the Southern Alps. Also finger lakes. And the river who drains all these lakes is called Waitaki. And I would like to move further north now. And here's a river crossing the Canterbury Plains, one of the rare areas on New Zealand that consists of plains and like just flat area, a lot of farmlands. In Canterbury, but also the Southern Alps extends all along the western part of the island. So the plains are just here to the east. But here is a river called Waimakariri. And to the north of the South Island there is also a river called Wairau. And yeah, there are some lakes. I don't draw all the lakes here. There are a lot of these finger-shaped lakes all across the Southern Alps. By the way, the Southern Alps in Maori is Ka Tiritiri o Te Moana. And now to the North Island. Here I will also draw the main rivers and lakes. I think there will only be one lake, located very much in the center of the island. Or no, maybe two lakes. I will add the Rotorua lake and then the biggest lake, the largest lake on New Zealand, Taupo. then from Taupo goes the longest river of the country. It's Waikato. Another river here is called Wanganui, and yet another river here called Rangitike. And on this side of the island is Rangitaiki. So you can see a lot of rivers here origins from or have their sources in this area around Lake Taupo. Also the highest mountain peak on the northern island is here, in the Taupo volcanic zone, Mount Tuapeo. Now, New Zealand is very fascinating. I read quite a lot about it, and there's a lot I would like to include on this map. But I'm not sure I can include everything I've been thinking about or reading about. Let's see. But I would like to start with regions or regional councils. There are 16 of them. Chatham Islands, by the way, is not included in those 16. Chatham Islands is a special territorial authority. Also, there are like self-governing states that are associated with New Zealand, but I will not include them on this map. They're located very far away from mainland New Zealand. It's the new island, 1,800 people living there, far to the northeast, and the Tokelau Islands. Tokelau Islands, one population of 1,500 people, and the Cook Islands, 17,000 people. It's a population of Cook Islands. New and Cook Islands are self-governing states. Tokelau is a territory in free association with New Zealand, but they are far to the northeast here, and they have their own time zones as well. New has -11, Cook Islands -10, same as Hawaii. So they are on on the Western Hemisphere time zones. So it's the next day there, almost the entire 24 hours. Then on New Zealand, that is +12. So, yeah, I think it's very fascinating and interesting with the time zones, actually. That's why I keep talking about it. So, this is not the first, it's not the place where the New Year's is happening at the first time, because on Earth it also exists +14. It's the eastern part of Kiribati state in the Pacific. So they are actually 2 hours ahead of New Zealand. But if you would just go by the meridians, then 12 hours would be the most, I don't know how to say it. It would be the first where the day starts first, I would say. But because of Kiribati is so wide, they have 3 time zones, I think, and the most easternmost is +14. But in New Zealand there is +12, so 12 hours ahead of London time. London time is like on 0, the Greenwich meridian, so yeah, here it's +12, and on Chatham Islands it's +12 3/4, and Tokelau is +13, for example, just like some other states, independent states in the Pacific Ocean, +13 exists there. And New and Cook Islands is -11, -10. But now back to the regions, and the northernmost region here on North Island is Northland, or Te Tai Tokerau. I will draw the borders in this color with dotted lines, and then I would like to add the council seat, quite often the biggest city or town in this region, but not always. Here it's a town called Whangarei. And the next one to the south is Auckland. Auckland is the biggest city of New Zealand. There's a big urban area here. It's like an isthmus here, very narrow strip of land, but I think the Northland is connected with a land bridge here to the rest of North Island. But in this very most narrow strip is Auckland City located. 1.4 million people lives here. It's not the capital, but it's the biggest city. And I think I would like to zoom in while I'm doing this. You can see it better, all the regions. Next region is Waikato. So it's this region with a lot of interesting features that I have read about. I think I will not talk so much about like places you can visit and interesting nature features. No, I think I will do it later after I have drawn all the regions. So in Waikato, the council seat is located here by the Waikato River. It's the town Hamilton, or Kirikiriroa. And the next one is Bay of Plenty, or Te Moana Atoi. This one. And the council seat is Vakane. But it's not the biggest city in the region. That's actually Tauranga. It's located here. I think I will add Tauranga because it's actually the 5th biggest town in the country. Here is the easternmost region on North Island, is Gisborne, or Te Tairabiti. And the council seat is Gisborne. In Maori, the town is called Turanganui a Kiwa. It means the great standing place of Kiwa. Here's the next region, Hawke's Bay, or Te Matau a Maori. And the council seat is Napier, or Ahoriri. Here is the region Wellington. And the capital city, Wellington. Capital of entire New Zealand. And Wellington has another name, of course, in Maori, Te Wanganui a Tara. And Wellington, if you count not just the city itself, but also like the urban area or the conurbation, then it's the 2nd biggest city. I'm not sure exactly how to count it, but something 360 or even more thousand people. Then I think the 2 nearest towns, Lower Hutt and Upper Hutt, is also included in the Greater Wellington area. So yeah, the most northern parts of this urban area is actually the city's Lower Hutt here and Upper Hutt here. Now I think there are 2 regions left here. So this one is Manawatu Wanganui, and the council seat is Palmy. Or Palmerston North. Or Te Papai Oea. And here to the very west is the region Taranaki. council seat is Stratford, or Whakahorangi, Taranaki. Here's a very big dormant volcano. But let's talk about that later. I just couldn't resist mentioning it. Time to move on to the South Island. And I'll start here in the north. So here are the first two regions. Nelson, small one here around the town Nelson, or Vakatu, and then Marlborough, or Te Tawihu or Te Waka. The council in Marlborough is Blenheim, or Waiharakeke, and in Nelson Vakatu it's the same name for the town as in the region. Here's Richmond, or Waimea. It's the regional, it's a council seat of Tasman region, also called Te Tai o Aorere. Lot of national parks and beautiful nature scenery here, I guess. Then there's a very long region along the coast, along the western coast here. It's called West Coast, or Te Tai Putini. The council seat is located here, and it's Greymouth, or Mauhera. Next, here it follows, the border follows the Waitaki River. This is the region Canterbury, or Waitaha. Big region to the east, and here close to the Waimakariri River is the council seat, and also the third biggest city or town in New Zealand, and the biggest one on South Island. It's Christchurch, or this is the border between the two southernmost regions on South Island. It's Otago to the east, almost the same name in Maori, Otago. And to the west it's Southland or Murihiku. The council seats are Invercargill or Waihopai and Dunedin or Aotearoa. Close to this peninsula here. I forgot, I was supposed to add some islands, just like I did with the Chatham Island. Then I started to talk about it and I forgot about the other islands. I'll place them here, because there are more islands located in the south. So the uninhabited Campbell Island. I think it used to be people there, staying there, because there was like a weather station, meteorological station somehow in the past, but not anymore. So now it's considered uninhabited. And the Maori name for it is Motu Ihu Poko. And then also the Auckland Islands, even more to the south, or Motu Maha. And far to the north there are the Kermadec Islands, or Rangitahoa, with a population of 6 people. 6 people on 16 islands. So I guess some of the islands are uninhabited. So these are not located, it's not on the right spot. You have to travel more to the north, far east, and far south to reach these islands, very small islands. I would like to label the biggest cities, actually, write the names of them. I will not label so many places on this map because there are 2 languages, official languages, and it would be too much text, I think. But I would like to write here Auckland. If this pen will work. Auckland and the Maori name. to write Wellington. Te banga nui atara. And also the third biggest city, Christchurch. I think I spelled it wrong, I'm sorry. Aotearoa, it should be. So these should swap place. Now I would like to add some nature features and nice spots that I read about. And I will see, maybe first I will try another type of pencil for this. For example, this green one. I will add a bit of water to it. Like that. So for example here, in the very northern tip of Northland, the Aotearoa is the 90-mile beach located. It's not 90 miles long, it's actually 55 miles long, but it's called 90-mile beach, or Tectonic Plates. Here, a bit to the south, is the Waipoua forest. That I read a bit about. It's a kauri forest, kauri trees, giant, or I guess they can be very big trees, coniferous trees. And here somewhere in this forest, the Matamata stands. It's the New Zealand's largest tree. And Matamata means god of the forest. And no one knows how old it is, but it could be somewhere between 1.2 and 2.5 thousand years old, actually. Here on the other side of the peninsula is the Bay of Islands. And here, I guess, a very beautiful place, very cool nature places to visit, like the Rainbow Falls, waterfall, Haruru waterfalls, another one. And you can do skydiving, snorkeling, kayaking. And you can see dolphins, whales, penguins. So I guess it's a very cool place to visit. This peninsula here is called the Coromandel Peninsula. Or Aotearoa Maui. And right here is a beach called the Hot Water Beach, because hot springs in the area make the water, like warming up the water somehow. Almost all of New Zealand is a seismic zone, like a volcanic activity. Not so much here, I think. The only spots where it's not as much volcanic activity as in the rest is to the far north. And I guess here in the far south. Then we have the Southern Alps volcanic belt here and also here. So there's a lot of geothermal activity and volcanic activity, hot springs, volcanoes, active, dormant volcanoes. Because there are two plates, tectonic plates that meet here. I think maybe I will talk a bit more about the tectonic plates later, when I have zoomed out and can show you the entire map. Yeah, there are beaches and a lot of scenic views here. Also some kauri forest. I think the kauri forest are here to the north, where the climate is more subtropical, warmer than in the south. By the way, I think I haven't mentioned the name for an entire country yet. For New Zealand in Maori, it's Aotearoa. I should have said that in the beginning. Here is west or east of Hamilton. Is a place called Matamata. And here actually you can visit the village of Hobbiton. The scenes from Hobbiton in the Lord of the Rings and the Hobbit movies were filmed here actually. So you can still visit this place. I think all the houses and everything, like they have made it into a tourist attraction. Here, south of Lake Rotorua, is nice place to visit also. A lot of geysers, volcanic craters, and steaming thermal springs. I think I've seen pictures from, I think it's from here, where there are so cool colors in the water. It's like red and turquoise, very bright colors. And south of the largest lake, Taupo, is an area, yeah, this is the Taupo volcanic zone, but it's a national park here called the Tongariro, with a lot of volcanic features like hot springs and turquoise lakes here as well. And the tallest mountain top on North Island. It's called Mount Ruapeo, 2,800 meters tall. Right here. And then west of Stratford in Taranaki region is the big volcano, totally circular shape, but it's a dormant volcano. Very also tall mountain peak, 2,500 meters. The Mount Taranaki, or Mount Egmont, it's also called. Here, not far from Wellington, is also a forest park called Tararoa. And in Tararoa, I guess, or close to Tararoa, is the Kaitoke Regional Park, where some scenes from Lord of the Rings movies were shot here. So it's a set for Isengard, for example, or Rivendell, also Anduin River. On the South Island, here, by the coast, is Abel Tasman's National Park. That is also very nice, beautiful scenery, I guess. And to the south of this region, the Tasman region, is an area called Nelson Lakes National Park. There are many lakes here, and I have read that here this area was the scenes were shot here for Dimriddle Dale in Lord of the Rings movie, and maybe other scenes as well. So a mountainous region with a lot of lakes. And also I have read that the world's clearest lake is located here in the Nelson Lakes National Park. It's a blue lake. It's called the Blue Lake, or Rotomaire Venua. And it's so clear that you can see 80 meters down into the water. Here on the eastern coast is a place called Kaikoura. Nice to visit if you're interested in wildlife. You can spot whales, dolphins, for example. And now to the southern part, very interesting part of South Island and New Zealand. There's a lot of nature features here, worth to visit, I guess. Here, for example, is a park and a place called Mount Sunday. It's a set for the scenes in Lord of the Rings when they are in Edoras, the capital of Rohan. Those scenes were shot there. And here in Mackenzie Country, it's called, this area with a lot of rivers and lakes. There's a place with grassy fields called the Pelennor Fields. And here there were battle scenes shot for the Lord of the Rings movies. Here, along this lake, Wakatipu Lake in the south. Here on the northern tip of the lake is a place called Glenorchy. And here the scenes from Lothlorien were shot in the movies of Lord of the Rings. Further down here, in the middle of the lake, is a town called Queenstown, or Tahona. It's a very popular place to visit. It's like the adventure capital of New Zealand. You can do a lot of nature, scenery. Also skiing. These are in the mountains, of course, and also close to the Fiordlands here. Another location here is Aotearoa, where also I know some scenes were shot for Lord of the Rings. And then there's a big area here to the southwest, the Fiordlands. Fiordlands National Park. Very steep cliffs and lakes. Fantastic place to visit, I guess, but also not so accessible. There's a place called Milford Sound, or Aotearoa, here to the very north. That is a bit easier to access. It's a road to this place, at least. But here is just wild nature. West of this Lake Teanau and Lake Manapuri. By the way, this is the Waiau River, and the part of Waiau River between Manapuri Lake and Teanau Lake is the place where some scenes were shot also for Lord of the Rings. Also then the Anduin River was here. Also Fangorn forest scenes were shot here somewhere. This landscape I have read. So this is an volcanic island called White Island off the coast. White Island or Vakari. And I think it's time to zoom out, and I will talk a bit more about the tectonic plates that have a huge impact on the nature, and a lot about New Zealand. So, maybe also I wanted to add some color to show you where the most mountainous areas are. And I forgot to show you the tallest mountain peak of the entire country is Mount Cook, or Aoraki. Located here, and there are close to this place a bit more easier to access, and I guess more popular for tourism, the Franz Joseph Glacier, or Waiau, and a bit south the Fox Glacier, or Te Moeka o Tuawe. So all these are quite close to each other in an area here north of the Mackenzie country in the Southern Alps, quite close to the western coast here, the Tasman Sea. I think I will label the map a bit more with the Tasman Sea, for example, or no, I will actually write the name of the islands. Here, South Island. And in Maori Te Waiponamu. And the North Island as well. Te Ika a Maui. So the Southern Alps, or Aotearoa. Are here in the mountains where all these rivers have their sources, of course. And northwest and west of these plains that I talked about, I mentioned the Canterbury Plains. By the way, there are so many sheep on New Zealand. There are 6 or 7 more sheep than there are people. 5 million people, and yeah, 5 times 6 or 7, like 35,000 millions, of course, millions sheep. So wherever you go here, I guess you will find sheep also. Here's an area called the Marlborough Fault System. Here are the Alpine Faults and the Marlborough Faults here. So then the mountainous area is actually a bit wider. Here it's more narrow, and then it becomes wider here. On the North Island there are some mountainous areas as well, but not as tall here. Or not, I should do it more here. Around this Tongariro National Park. So yeah, there are some mountainous areas here, but it's much higher mountains here, and here are those mountain peaks. Just make them more visible here in the background. Mount Cook, 3,700 meters high. Yeah, like I said, there are 2 tectonic plates meeting here. So it's the Australian plate here to the west, and it's a Pacific plate here to the east. And the boundary between these plates is actually here under the Southern Alps. And then it goes like this. And this place here is called the Hikurangi trough. So here it's like a trench, I guess, underwater. And a very special thing that I find very fascinating and a bit strange is that the activity, the volcanic and tectonic activity here is a bit complicated. The Pacific Plate, by the way, this is the Ring of Fire also, the Pacific Plate going all the way to South America or to North America, so the entire Pacific Ocean. This is like the western limit of it. The Pacific Plate is subducted below the Australian Plate here. So here in the ocean, deep in the ocean, this plate is moving. They're like colliding here, and they will go like this. With the Australian Plate on top, and the Pacific Plate will be subducted below. And that's a bit logical, I think, because the land, the continental crust, where there is land, usually is less, they are usually thicker and less dense than the surface on the oceanic crusts that usually are on the seafloor, on those types of tectonic plates. There are actually two types, the oceanic and the continental crust, and they consist of a bit different material with the different densities, so that's why the continents are still continents, and like floating through the millions of years and billions of years, you can still see it's the same shape that always floats on top of the Earth's mantle below, and also on top of the oceanic plates. But here something happens. It's like a shift here, because here on the South Island the Pacific Plate goes in this direction, moving in this southeastern direction, and when it meets the Australian Plate, the Australian Plate is actually subducted by the Pacific Plate, and it does make sense in somehow, because the boundary is here, north of the South Island, and here it's south of the North Island. So South Island is basically mostly entirely on the Pacific Plate in this case. So here the Pacific Plate doesn't really behave as an oceanic plate, I would say, or I wouldn't expect it to be like that, because I would expect the Australian Plate to have the continents on it. But it's like here the plates are can act both as continental plates that are thicker and has lower density, so they will kind of float on top of other plates that are thinner and has a higher density. So it's like, I don't know how to visualize this in my head or with my hands, but it's like there are two plates. My right hand is the Pacific Plate. My left hand is the Australian Plate. And somehow they move like that. So here, the Australian Plate is over, and here the Pacific Plate is over the Australian Plate. So like that. And then I guess there must be some kind of a center for this motion, for this rotation here. You can see where the Pacific Plates goes from being subducted to being on top of the subducted Australian Plate. I think that rotation happens here somewhere, and that's why it's a system of faults here, the Marlborough fault system. It's quite complicated to understand how the plates move here related to each other. I try to understand it and visualize it, but yeah, of course it's a super complicated process, and yeah, it's not easy to understand or to get a clue of what's happening exactly. But there are like boundaries between plates in general can be divergent. That's what's happening on the seafloor when they're moving from each other, away from each other, and creating new seafloor in the ridge between. That's what's happening in the, for example, in the middle of the Atlantic Ocean at the moment. So a couple of millimeters or centimeters every year spread. The Atlantic will get wider and wider, and the continents, America continents and the, for example, Africa continent will drift more and more away from each other. They used to be connected as one continent. Gondwana, for example, I guess approximately 50 million years ago. And also Pangaea, the super continent with all the continents almost collected together into one big continent. But now the pattern is that continents are drifting away from each other and creating these rift in the oceans. But then they can also be convergent boundaries when two continental crusts on plates collide, and that's when mountain ranges, huge high mountains are created. For example, most recently, or quite recently, the Himalayas, of course, when the Indian plate collided with the Asian plate, and so two continental crusts against each other would create these high mountains. And by the way, Iceland is the opposite. It's because Iceland is a very new island geologically. So when the plates were divergent and floating, moving from each other, away from each other, then there were volcanic activity in the rift, and that's where Iceland was eventually created, through volcanic activity. Then there is also a third type of plate boundaries. It's a transform fault, transform boundary. That's when two plates meet, but they don't like move. They are not divergent or convergent. They move more like this, side by side. And I think that's what's happening here somehow. They're moving a bit sidewards like this, and that's when faults are created. So there are a lot of earthquakes in New Zealand happening every once in a while, and it's not like it's yeah, it's volcanic, it's everything of course, but a lot of activity is these faults that are created when they are like the plates are moving like this, and then nothing is happening for a long time, and then all of a sudden it just becomes an earthquake. And yeah, you can see on the landscape it's shifting. So there are examples of places in New Zealand where you can see an old road, and then the road continues like far from where it used to be after the earthquake. So the landscape is like shifting, and also that's when high steep slopes are being created, and that's the faults here in the Alps, the Southern Alps, and in the Marlborough faults. So yeah, that's very fascinating, I think. Yeah, I will just draw some frames here so you can see that these are not in their exact place. So I think the map is almost done now. Maybe I will add some text here because there are some room for it. I think I will write, because I feel a bit bad. I forgot to mention for almost the entire video the Maori name for the entire country, Aotearoa. So I will write it here. And let me zoom in a bit. Also, I would like to point out again these tall mountain peaks, because I think they're not very visible now as it is now. So again, Mount Cook, or Aoraki, tallest peak with 3,700 meters tall, and Franz Joseph Glacier, or Waiau, and Fox Glacier, or Te Moeka o Tuawe. On North Island, Mount Ruapehu, 2,800 meters tall. Oh, it's not easy to add this white pen to this green. Unfortunately, yeah, I don't think I need to mark out this one. So, North Island, Te Ika a Maui. And this water between is called the Cook Strait, that Tasman Sea, Pacific Ocean, South Island, Te Waiponamu, Stewart Island, Rakoira, and the Foveaux Strait between South Island and Stewart Island. Chatham Islands, or Rekohu, it means misty sun, in a language called Moriori that went extinct in 1998. But you can still hear it or read it from the names of this island. And Auckland Island, Matamata, Campbell Island, Motuihopuku, and Kermadec Islands, or Rangitaua. And the last thing I would like to do in this video is to sing the national anthem of New Zealand, Aotearoa. I think it's called God Defend New Zealand in English, and it's referred to as Ehoa Atua in Maori. And I will sing 3 verses in both Maori and English. And I'll start with Maori. I think I will start here. Ehoa Atua Onga Iwi Motura Atabakarangona Me Aroha Noa Kia Hua Kote Pai Kia Tauto Atabai Mana Kitia Mai Aotearoa. God of nations, at thy feet, in the bonds of love we meet. Hear our voices, we entreat. God defend our free land. Guard Pacific's triple star from the shafts of strife and war. Make her praises heard afar. God defend New Zealand. Ona mano tangata kiri vero kirima iwi Maori pokeha Rabeke katoa negatono konga he mawe bake ahuke kia ambition, envy, hate, and corruption guard our state. Make our country good and great. God defend New Zealand. Tōna pai me toitu, tikarawa ponopo. Tōna no tōna tu, iwi no ihowa. Kawamona wakama, kia Aotearoa, kia tuhe tawira Aotearoa. May our mountains ever be freedom's ramparts on the sea. Make us faithful unto thee. God defend our free land. Guide her in the nation's van, preaching love and truth to man, working out thy glorious plan. God defend New Zealand. Thank you so much for watching and listening to this video. I hope you found it relaxing and interesting. Sleep well. Take care. See you soon.